The Tiverton Town Council meeting of Monday, May 22nd, 2017. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Mello?
Councilor Perry.
Present.
Councilor LeBeau.
Here.
Councilor Ryan. Present. Councilor Hilton.
Present.
Councilor Shabbat.
Present.
Councilor DiMederos. Present. And Councilor Edwards.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is council recognition of Top Cop National Award to Corporal Joseph Wozbicki. Town Council would like to recognize and offer congratulations to Corporal John J. Wozbicki, 2017 National Top Cop Award. Whereas John J. Wozbicki Jr. is a corporal in the Tiverton Police Department, and whereas John J. Wozbicki Jr. was born and raised in Tiverton and still lives here with his wife Tina, and whereas Corporal Wozbicki began his career with the Tiverton Police Department on October 5th, 1987, completing nearly 30 years of service to the residents of Tiverton. And whereas Corporal Wozbicki was recognized on May 11th, 2017 in Washington, D.C. with a National Top Cop Award for acting under great danger in his service to the town of Tiverton. The Tiverton Town Council, on behalf of every official and citizen of the town of Tiverton, extends recognition, thanks, and a sincere appreciation for the unselfish service and dedication of Corporal Wozbicki to the residents of Tiverton. Tiverton Town Council. Representative Edwards?
Actually, the chief is going to do
Okay.
the introduction for us,
Okay.
since he's feeling very articulate this evening.
You want to come up here?
Mr. Edwards, Senator Phelag. On June 13th, 2016, there was an occurrence at the Kansas Cemetery, as you're all well aware. Officer Wozbicki had responded to check the area, and I went there as well. So I had I was on site, if you will. At that time, the suspect returned from Fall River, came back to Tiverton. He went down Town Farm Road, Ford Farm Road, exited his vehicle, and did not comply with the commands of two Fall River officers, as well as Officer Wozbicki, to drop his weapon. There was a shootout that occurred. The suspect was killed at that scene. Fortunately, no officers were injured. At that time, while I was there, about as far as I am now from Joe, I saw the man stand in the center of a field, a yard, and exchange gunfire with no cover to himself. It's an emotional thing for me to talk about. I really felt in my heart that night I was going to see one of my officers shot. I had no doubt in my mind. He had no cover. It was a very serious situation. But Joseph handled everything as he does, very professionally. And when the incident was over, he composed himself professionally, and he would make this entire community very proud to have him here. So please acknowledge Corporal Joseph Wozbicki.
And Senator Phelag and I have citations acknowledging that from the State Senate and from the State House. So, Corporal Wozbicki? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
The council would also recognize Attorney John Bernardo by the Rhode Island Women's Resource Center as a man who makes a difference. Attorney Bernardo is not here this evening, but will read the council recognition. It's for recognition of Attorney John Bernardo III, whereas Attorney John Bernardo III is the prosecuting attorney for the town of Tiverton, and whereas the Rhode Island Women's Resource Center held their annual recognition night on April 21st, 2017, and whereas Attorney Bernardo was recognized by that group as a man who makes a difference for the help he provides to the women of Tiverton who are currently or have been victims of domestic violence. And whereas Attorney Bernardo was presented with an engraved commemorative silver plaque and certificate of recognition from both Senators Sheldon Whitehouse and Congressman David Cicilline, the Tiverton Town Council, on behalf of every official and citizen of the town of Tiverton, extends recognition, thanks, and a sincere appreciation for the efforts he provides while representing the town of Tiverton. Tiverton Town Council. Next item is core organization-sponsored recycling sculpture contest for Tiverton Children Tour of the Town. Is someone here to speak? There we go.
Yep, yeah, okay. Charlie, come on up, honey.
Come on.
So, I'm Gloria Christ of the CORE organization, and behind me is Pamela Poli. She's our managing director. And in the spring, we launched a recycling sculpture contest that was community-wide and school-wide. And each school participated, and we had the Rhode Island Recovery Center kick off in February, the contest. And we were really just blown away by the amount of entries that we had. And we had judges, and a couple of our town council members came up to see the sculptures. And the winners were actually did a tour of Tiverton. The sculptures all went to each school for a visit so their peers could see what they've done, and also went to the libraries. And now the sculptures are here on display, and then we'll go back to the library for a while. Councilman Perry was there and was very impressed with what he saw.
Very.
And we have two of our winners here, Emma Baker and Charlie Harrison. So I'm going to let the two of them speak on what it was like to really look at how we recycle and use what we have to create art. For those of you that don't know, the CORE organization is a nonprofit that provides after-school arts enrichment grades K through 12 throughout our schools. Kids can choose classes in the fine arts and performing arts. And this last session was just ended 2 weeks ago. We had over 100 children participating, so it's really a successful program, and we're very, very grateful for the support. So, Emma Baker, take it away.
Okay. So, for my sculpture, I first thought of what topic I would like to do. And the first thing that came to my mind was the musical Hamilton, because I'm a huge fan of that. And so then I started thinking about what kind of resources I could use. And so I looked in my recycling bin, and I found cardboard, and then I looked in some of my drawers, and I found tin foil. So I planned to make the star, the logo of Hamilton, out of cardboard, and then I covered it in yellow magazine scraps, and then the base was black magazine scraps. And then I wrote the letters Hamilton on it using tin foil. And so I wanted to make it sparkly and look really nice. So,
Yes. This is her.
Very nice.
Why don't you talk just a little bit about how it felt to create something from basically nothing, what it did for you as a student and as someone who loves the arts anyway.
it was really, really cool to just think about, because if you can make something out of basically nothing or make something awesome out of basically trash, then you could really make anything, and it was really cool to see that.
And why don't you tell them the prize that you won?
I won a $60 core gift card, which I can use for any semester of the classes. And then I also won a $75 Amazon gift card. So.
Very good.
Thank you. And Charlie?
I first started out of thinking what I wanted to do, and I thought that I would do something famous or something that would really stand out. So I've always wanted to go to Paris, and
Me too.
I instantly thought of the Eiffel Tower, and I thought that I could use the yogurt cups for a bunch of stuff as legs, and then it just went on from there, and it's like a really cool thing, and then it came out great.
And Charlie, what grade and what school?
I'm in 4th grade in Fort Barton School.
And Emma?
I'm in 7th grade in Tiverton Middle School.
And why don't you, what other aspects of after-school arts do both of you participate?
Acting.
Acting as well.
I did the art class too, after school Mondays when that was going on.
So the other thing that we do is we combine the arts with standards in education. So there's always something that we're doing that ties into extended learning. The Corps really believes that what our students are learning in school is always another step in using the arts to learn more. So does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from the council?
All right,
Well,
thank you.
We offer our congratulations.
Congratulations,
Great job.
thank you.
All right. Business brought before the council, consent agenda. CA 1A, approval of regular council meeting minutes of April 12th, 2017. 1B, approval of executive session meeting minutes of April 12th, 2017. 1C, approval of regular council meeting minutes of April 24th, 2017. Councilors Edwards and Hilton abstained, absent. 1D, approval of executive session meeting minutes of April 24th, 2017. Councilors Edwards and Hilton abstained, absent. CA2, receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions. 2A, Harbor and Coastal Waters Management Commission, and 2B, Tiverton Arts Council Spring Newsletter. CA3, correspondence, receive and file. 3A, Westerly Town Council Resolution in opposition to H5475 and S0481 relating to cities and towns subdivision of land. 3B, Gloucester Town Council Resolution in opposition to H5475 and S0481 relating to cities and towns subdivision of land. CA4, approval of tax assessor abatements. CA5, approval of town council resolution in opposition to H6172 regarding agricultural land use. CA6, Denise Charette, distribution of April budget and revenue reports. CA7, Susan Gill, Planning Board Administrative Officer, monthly report for April. Are there any items that the council wishes to remove?
Madam President. CA5.
CA5. Any others? Do I have a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Mr. Edwards, CA5.
Thank you. I just want to say I think that this resolution is a little premature. I've got some questions as to whether or not we've corresponded with our delegation up at the State House to determine, the status of this bill, if this is something that's even going to move forward, and whether or not it's actually going to do what we are afraid it's going to do. I went back and reread the bill. It looks like it's some revisions to a bill that's already on the books, which is a little bit more opaque than the revision put forward in the amendment. And I don't think that now is the time for us to be putting a resolution out against this.
Any other comments from the council?
I'll
Ms.
comment.
Hilton?
My understanding is that the bill in the House committee has been held for further study, which means it may or may not come out of committee and go to the floor. But I will certainly say that at least I've heard, and I think that Tony can back me up on this, that it has generated an enormous amount of negative response from communities around the state because it is simply a complete overstep on local zoning. And while, it may not be in imminent danger for us of passing, I still do think that being on the record that we are in control of our local zoning is an important message to send. And if we, want to modify our agricultural land use, then we should do it here in Tiverton, but not have something mandated to us by the state. So I feel strongly that I'd like to continue to support this resolution, because I think it's an important message, that the state understand that municipalities have control over their own local land use.
Any other comments?
Tony, could you give a comment regarding it?
Well, actually, I was at the hearing and testifying on another bill, and when it came up, the chairman of the committee commented that she's from South Kingston, that she had, this bill generated more emails to her than any other bill that she's ever experienced to date. I think about 80 of them went into the clerk of the committee on its own. So it has generated a lot of interest. Committee heard it. Mostly people were opposing. Of course, they had to wait for everybody to get through. But it was held for further study. The bill's still alive. It's still alive. I don't think it's gotten a hearing in the Senate. I don't even know if a Senate bill's been introduced, but that's where it is. It did get a hearing.
Do I have a motion?
A motion for?
To either approve it or to continue it to a future meeting for further review?
I motion to approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second to approve the town council resolution expressing opposition to House Bill H6172. All those in favor? 5 opposed? 2. Thank you.
Excuse me. We need a vehicle moved, Rhode Island registration RE61, which is a gray Jetta.
Rosemary.
Oops.
Taking it.
There's a full house out there. For open public forum, from announcements, comments, and questions, I have no one signed up. Public hearings and presentations. B1, Planning Board Comprehensive Plan Consultant Allison Ring will provide an update on the draft comprehensive plan. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Allison Ring. I am the principal of AB Planning and Mapping of Bristol, Rhode Island. And I'd like to thank the town of Tiverton for the opportunity to assist you in completing your comprehensive plan update. I recently completed Town of New Shorehams. That was approved by the state several months ago, and was also the lead in the Town of Middletowns. And I'm also working with Little Compton currently and drafting their plan. So I've reviewed the town's draft plan and also had conversations with statewide planning, and I am confident this is something that can be quickly completed. Stu Hardy and Susan Gill have been very helpful in getting me up to speed on the project. Stu and I had met last month with the former, at the time, town manager and town planner, and discussed the scope of the project. And I was directed to focus my efforts just on the statewide planning letter dated November 2016. So I will be focusing on addressing those comments in order to get the plan ready for state approval. So related to those state edits, I've already addressed a majority of the comments. Some of the, I've also addressed, CRMC had provided written comments. I've addressed all those and some of Rhode Island Housing's comments. The revision areas that were more extensive were related to incorporating additional information on natural hazards and climate change. Some studies statewide planning had done on sea level rise. I was able to pull in some of that information. Also added some language related to local trends in agriculture and policies on energy and solid waste reduction that are required. And did an analysis on the inconsistencies between the future land use and the current zoning map. So some of the larger comments that remain that I'll be working on over the next week are some related to affordable housing and some other comments that I need some more town input from that may, the status of a project. I noticed while going through the plan in certain areas, I might have noticed where we might need to update some projects. I also need to make sure that the future land use map and the zoning map are consistent, so I'd like to meet with some representatives with the town before making some decisions on changing those important maps. As far as mapping, the other comments related to mapping, I've coordinated with Mary Hutchinson, your town GIS consultant, and we've already addressed all the mapping edits. So she's provided me with the revised maps, and like I said, just the future land use map and that zoning inconsistency map, they may, based on conversations with the town, we may have some tweaking of those, but we're in good shape as far as mapping. And beyond the state review letter, I've pulled in the recent updates related to the casino language, so that's been added in, and some other edits related to just the passing of time that had to be updated with dates and making the plan more internally consistent. So last week I spoke with Kevin Nelson, who is the supervising planner of the comprehensive planning unit at statewide planning. And I provided him with a status of Tiverton's plan and kind of gave him the heads up it would be coming soon to his office, and discuss the process moving forward, getting some input from him and sign off. So what I do recommend at this point, I anticipate being done on my end with the edits in the next week or two, and would like to make sure I've signed off from the town representatives of the planning board before resubmitting to the state. And they have informally indicated it would take up to a month, but given I'll provide them track changes document and they're familiar with the plan already, it could be sooner than that. So following the state's sign off, so we want to make sure that we've addressed all their comments and that the plan is at the point where they feel like it would meet requirements prior to going to public hearing. So as you may be aware, the comprehensive plan requires a public hearing before the planning board as well as the town council. It can be held jointly, or the planning board will approve the document and forward it to the town council. And at this point, based on the time frame I've just outlined, I could, I guess, estimate maybe it'd be August or September where the public hearings could be held without any, delay. So I take the opportunity to provide you with, the update, but I'm here if you have any questions or direction or any comments that at this stage of the project you want to provide me with.
Any comments from the council?
I have a question.
Ms. Hilton?
Allison, may I ask why, since we've sent the first draft to statewide planning and they're giving us back their comments, why we're sending it back to statewide planning? Because the council still hasn't seen, in its very early draft format. So I'm just wondering, given that it's going to have to come through the council, and there'll be, public hearings in front of the planning board, there will be public hearings here, why we're going to do that interim step of sending it back to planning, assuming, because I think that you're very competent, and I think that, you know, the state told us what they'd like to see when we gave them that preliminary review, why we're doing this additional step and not, you know, bringing it to the council. So what, any changes, if any, that come out of those public hearings can be incorporated, and then it can go to statewide planning. Or maybe this is a question for Stu. I'm not sure. I'm just.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think this is how the state's been, in recent history, this is what the state's been recommending. They like to make sure, you know, get that sign off before towns spend the time and money advertising for public hearings and adopt the plan and have buy-in, and then it goes to the state, and then there may be another item that has to be revised, and they want to avoid the towns having to go through the public hearing process again. But I understand, and in some cases, yes, it would go to statewide planning, maybe if there were only very few minor revisions, but there was a lengthy letter with quite a number of revisions, so I mean, I see your point that hopefully we're able to adequately address everything, and I think, you know, we should, but there could be something that wasn't, you know, they felt like we didn't adequately address it, and it may be worth the extra, you know, few weeks just to get that assurance. But if you feel like, you know, it's obviously the town's plan, I'll take direction on whatever process you feel like you want to undertake, and I'd be happy to, you know, we can go through the local process here before resubmitting formally to the state, so it's up to you.
Stu, any comments?
Our relationship with Kevin Nelson and and his staff have been excellent, and this is not an adversarial situation.
Yeah.
We talk all the time, and so Allison and I were talking before this meeting began, and we were chatting and thinking that maybe it would be a good thing to just send it back to statewide planning if they can turn it around quickly. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Then when we come to town council, you know that everything is fine with statewide planning. But I see Tricia's point as well. And the Lord knows I'm the last person that wants to drag this out any longer than it has gone already. But I think this might be a prudent move, provided that Kevin is good for his word that he will turn it around quickly.
And the other issue is that the state had recently changed the requirements of the comprehensive plan, and it seems to be evolving what is actually required. So they had written the standards, and now it seems like the standards may not be official requirements, and so that's another concern I have.
That's a little bit of my concern, because we wrote that comprehensive plan under the interim guidance, and when it went up to statewide planning, a lot of what came back from them was not in the interim guidance. It was out of the new plan.
Yep.
So we had a meeting with them and pushed back and said, look, this is what you gave us for a guideline. You can't ask us now, after the committee's disbanded and all of this, to do this. So my concern is plan creep here, that every time it goes up there, something that didn't exist as a requirement when we wrote this thing starts getting added into it. And I mean, that's expensive, it's time consuming, it wasn't the arrangement that we had with the state. So I'm a little worried about that, and I'm also a little worried because the first time we sent it up there is a, you know, in their preliminary review process, there's a stated amount of time that they can turn this around. And I realize that Kevin Nelson and his staff have been great, I'm not trying to pick on them, but it took them a whole lot longer than they said it would. So my only concern is that, number one, we don't get into plan creep and they start asking for more and more things to be added, because they've already done it, than what was required the first time, and that it takes a long time. We really need, we need an adopted community comprehensive plan. I mean, ours has been expired for too long. That's my only concern.
And I do, I can assure you they won't be asking for more than what that last letter was, because the recent guidance coming out of statewide planning is actually a lot of those requirements are now guidance and not going to be strictly required. So I don't anticipate there being additional requirements coming out of this review, but just making sure that we have met what now is the requirements is actually what's only explicitly stated in state statute. So the requirements are actually going to be less than what the feedback you had received in November. So I don't anticipate that. And as far as the time of review, I mean, I certainly will make sure I communicate with Kevin and express that we want this done as quickly as possible. And it can be something that if a given, town amount of time has passed, that maybe the town can just proceed, with their local process.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
C, Town Council sitting as Board of Licensing. I have a request I would like a motion to move C3 out of order. Take it at this point in time.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second, and all those in favor? Thank you. C3, Michael Napolitano, Brew Dude, 2490 Main Road, Unit 3. Request for peddler's hawker's license, subject to meeting all legal requirements. Do we have Michael here?
Yes.
If you could come up to the podium. Hi.
How you doing?
If you could explain a little bit about, I think this is I got a little confused.
Well, I'm going to be doing a cold brew coffee business. I'm actually operating at South Shore Beach for the summer, but I am going to be working out of the kitchen down the street, Acacia, to brew the coffee and do some baked stuff. But I have all my licenses, I got my certification, I got the permits, everything.
Oh, so that's the address of Acacia?
Yes.
Now I know where you are.
Yes.
But that's not the location you'll be selling from, right?
No, I'm going to be selling at South Shore Beach in Little Compton. But I'm trying to work with, who is it? I'm sorry, the Parks and Recreation. I'm trying to meet with them.
Recreation
But
Training.
they're not going to be meeting for like another month and a half, so.
Okay.
So is he located in the building at the bottom of Bigmarsh Road on the left?
Yes.
Right next to Helger's Ice Cream, right on
That's
the
what I
corner.
thought, but I just
I was
wanted.
gonna say near the package store.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that.
Ice cream package store.
Yeah.
Take your pick. And you got coffee. Any questions from the council?
I have one. So do you need obviously do you need a Board of Health license for the food truck, yes?
Yes, and I'm actually,
So how does that work to cover you in this bill, Tony? How does that work to cover you in the building, or?
well, I need a commercial kitchen to operate out of. It's not like I can do that at my house.
Right.
Which I thought, but then after talking with them, they said, well, try to work out something with one of the local restaurants, if you can just brew it there, and then I just pack it up and I take it to the beach.
If I may, I actually think this request is appropriate for licensing. Victualling license would not be appropriate because he's not going to be selling from that location. He would have the hawker's peddler's license. The Department of Health approvals and all the other approvals that attach to the current kitchen will also cover this gentleman too.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to
Madam.
approve the peddler's hawker's license?
So moved.
Subject to meeting all legal requirements?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Good luck.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you very much.
C1, advertised licenses. Paul Hebert, Lyrics Bar and Grill, 4 Stafford Road. Request for Class VB license, liquor license transfer from Benjamin Sports Pub, Inc., subject to meeting all legal requirements. Is Mr. Herbert here? Come up.
Can you bring another chair up?
Okay, I have just a few questions. I think in here it has a victualling license. request, and I only see a liquor license and an entertainment license on the agenda.
Probably don't check off that portion. Business, because they have to sell food.
Right.
They should have a little room.
If I may.
Yes. Did-
Because the victualling license doesn't require a public hearing, if you want to add it on, I don't see a problem under the Open Meetings Act. Because the license is a BV license, it's something that you could do and add on with this.
And just explain a little bit about the circumstances?
Yes, we're just hoping to reopen Benjamin's, we'll clean it up. And reopen Benjamin's is just a bar and a grill, music bar, and serve some food.
Okay. I also see that there is concern for an outstanding indebtedness for Benjamin Sports Pub. Outstanding bill to McLaughlin and Warren.
Under Rhode Island state law, the license can't be transferred until that lien is satisfied.
I have a question. On the lease information page, the premises are identified as the entire first floor and fenced-in outdoor uncovered patio. So is the outdoor patio covered under this liquor license?
It would be under Rule 27 for the Department of Business Regulations, rules and regs. For this, the premises would be defined as it is in the application. The application defines the premises as the indoor as well as that fenced-in area. The liquor license would cover that, if it's approved.
And was the previous liquor license outdoors? No, I didn't think so.
But you can limit it.
Can we have outdoor,
You can limit it to just inside.
could we have outdoor liquor licenses? Do we have, no, I didn't think so.
You need to specify, if the license is to be approved, you need to specify the premises
Right.
as the indoor portion of the,
Okay.
But is it okay to say an okay for the outdoor? That's a separate, it's a separate license?
no,
No, it's not a separate license?
no.
We don't give those in Tiverton, is that correct, Nancy?
Right, we don't do outside liquor. Not on decks, not on it.
Well,
Wait a minute,
I've had outdoor liquor,
how about Evelyn's?
yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
And the one down in
Boathouse.
A boathouse.
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 Boathouse, the
Boathouse has that on their license that they are able to, I believe. Boathouse
About
has
Little
that
Bear?
restriction on there.
What?
About Little Bear Lounge.
Do that Boathouse, because Boathouse is originally an outdoor, and it was set up outdoor.
well, also
Little bit, too.
down in
and
Four
then they
Corners
closed
also.
in. What about Evelyn's? I don't know that Evelyn's
Little
should
Bear?
be served.
Nancy, Little Bear Lounge? Little Bear Lounge, they have a porch out, deck outside where they go out. That's,
They specifically came before the council and was denied outside.
okay, I'm just, was BJ before Joe.
I mean, I don't think there's anything in our ordinances that says you can't, but you have to specify that.
This has come
I
up
know it's
before.
specified for.
You
Boathouse
have to
because
say,
that was
so
an
if the
outdoor
existing, so what you're saying is you would like to have
Yes.
liquor outside. But previously, the prior tenant did not have outdoor liquor.
But Nancy, you were shaking your head saying that you didn't think there was outdoor liquor licenses, but you just said that we did give
I don't
one.
know any that we've given outdoor liquor license.
The boathouse, you just said.
The Boathouse originally was an outdoor restaurant. I think that's how it got that. Remember, then they closed in.
Yeah, there was no.
Boathouse opened. It was considered an outdoor restaurant. I mean, I'll check on it.
Chief,
But I don't know that Evelyn sells any outdoor liquor.
Yeah.
Chief Wakey?
I know a little bit. Hi, I'd like to interject, please. I do have concerns with the outside patio area. Police in the past have received calls about noise out there from the abutters and neighbors. It's not comparable to, not to give an example, but the Little Bear doesn't have neighbors in their backyard. Also got concerns with organized horseshoe events in the back that get noisy out there. Allegations, simply allegations of marijuana smoking out there. And people just, the groups that are out there get loud talking and it's disruptive to the neighborhood. So I have concerns of anything outside. Because of that's the thickly populated area. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
This is,
So, yeah, I do. So if we approve this, then we would approve it just for the indoors, is that right?
Whatever the motion is.
Could we have it till like 9 o'clock or something at night? Be available to go out there and look until 9 o'clock, and we regularly make sure everybody can't go out after that, at least we can use the patio that's
We
out there.
do plan on putting outside a monitoring system. We don't, I'm gonna help them manage it. I've been in the restaurant business forever. We're putting out a complete and total outdoor monitoring system. We're revamping the whole place due to the fact, we do not, under any circumstances, want it to be Benjamin's.
Want it to be what?
To be the old Benjamin's.
Oh.
We want to flip it complete. We're serving food all day, all night. Even until 9 PM would be good because it is a beautiful space if we could use it. Again, we have cameras. We are going to be all over things like noise and definitely marijuana smoke. Again, we're not going for that type of establishment. So they are working with me to come up with a good menu, and Paul here is redoing the whole entire place. Scott used to be a police officer, he's a retired lieutenant for the state police. We do not plan on opening anything like the old Benjamin's, just to get that straight.
I'm sorry, Madam President. So this is Paul Hebert, this is Scott,
Zayla.
and you are?
They hired me to do the secretary and manage the restaurant and help
You're
them
gonna
because
manage the restaurant, but I just want your name for the
Yes,
record.
Mindy Benavides.
Tony, may I ask a question? If they were applying for a victualling license,
Yes.
wouldn't, in order to grant it, wouldn't we need a Board of Health certificate?
Yes. Well, what you do is make it subject to all state and local approvals. One of those would be the Department of Health. It's difficult to have the Department of Health come in before the licenses are granted but not issued, because that's really the ticket to get the Department of Health in to do the inspections. So typically what happens is the town council will, if they're going to grant the license, it won't be issued until all legal requirements are met, one of those being the Department of Health inspection.
There's a whole list of things that are required for a victualling license. Mr.
I'm
Blake?
very happy to hear that they're revamping and the whole building itself. And I hope they have central air, because one of the things I want is the doors and windows closed, particularly if the council sees fit to grant a entertainment license. At all, I could be specific times when we get to that, but my concerns in the past have been frequent calls from neighbors for motorcycles, 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's my biggest concern, folks, is motorcycles. Not that I'm against them, but again, the people outside loitering after hours, conversation, noise travels at evening, and that's another problem. So one of the proposals I have for the council is they make a contingent upon them monitoring not just the building, but the curtilage as well. If there's any activity outside, they're responsible for the suspension or revocation of their license. We will control the area instead of having a police car parked up there monitoring traffic at night, as we've had to do in the past. Thank you.
Yeah, we're really trying to change the whole atmosphere of what was there before. I've been there before, I've seen it. I can tell you that I really think we're trying to create more of a family restaurant-type atmosphere. I can tell you this, there'll be no drugs allowed of any kind in this establishment. As a retired lieutenant from the Massachusetts State Police, I've seen what happens when drugs and alcohol are abused. And that's extremely important to me. I would not be involved in this otherwise. So,
Any other questions?
Are we just working on the liquor license and transfer, we're not having anything to do with the music and the entertainment right this minute?
That's separate.
Actually, my suggestion would be to take those up separately.
Separate,
Because
yeah.
they're discrete issues. Madam President, may I ask a question?
Yes.
On the
Okay, so we can take the liquor license as one item and then take Vitwin as a separate item?
Yes, yes and yes. The liquor license that is to be transferred is contingent on the service of food. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Entertainment is separate also. I also took a quick review of the section 6 dash 1 of the chapter 6 of your the town code. There is no blanket prohibition on outdoor service as part of the premises, although that's not something, as Nancy had said, that is been done often in the town. However, in the motion, I would recommend that you define the premises. It's defined in this application as including the outdoor area.
Okay.
Can we limit the outdoor area to a time?
Yes, you can. And no entertainment out there either.
Right. Well, we didn't get to that yet, Tony.
Okay.
Chief Lloyd?
Madam President, for both of these, I just would like to go on the record to note that our fire marshal has met with them. He has gone through that. They have a large list of things they do need to take care of before any license is granted on our behalf from the fire department. So I just want to make sure that that's in the record, that they do know that they have fire code issues they need to take care of.
What is your time frame to open?
Maybe mid-July, depending on how everything goes.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Madam President, may I please? You're voting just now on the license transfer.
The license transfer?
Okay, could you listen to the rest of my provisions?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Regardless if the commercial entertainment license is granted or not, I would still like all the doors open, all the doors, windows closed at 7 PM. By 7 PM. The noise from the bar does travel throughout the neighborhood, and with the central air and whatever they are fixing up the building, you have to be considerate of your neighbors.
Absolutely.
Especially during the summertime. I know the abutters have contacted me, and that they're concerned with the noise traveling throughout the neighborhood.
So you also suggesting that they shouldn't be outside after 7 PM on the patio?
I have not addressed that because I didn't know the conditions of the patio. That's something I think the council could work out. I think no entertainment would be paramount, but I also feel that people being people, and there's a group together, one's going to try to out-talk the other, or if they're having a competition out there, it may get noisy. So this is something that we should be able to talk to the owners about and curtail. And then we'll address the issue on entertainment, following up on whatever the council decides to do.
Your initial recommendation was not to serve alcohol and food outside. And
I would say it would be problematic. I don't want to prohibit a business from success, but I'm just concerned about it getting carried away. It'll be the council's privy if they want to go a certain period of time and test them and get back to you. That would be another option for you. I know it's harder to take away once you've given, so again, I think that could be problematic, unfortunately, but I think we could revisit it another time to see how good they do. Let's do it the other way around. Let's see how they do for a period of time, and then we'll visit if everything seems to go well, then we could visit the fact that it may go outdoors.
that would be what I would be personally most comfortable with, is that for now, that the food and the alcohol stay inside the building. And if things go well and you are able to do what you say, which you'd like to have a different kind of clientele and a quieter family-type place, then we could revisit whether or not using the outdoor patio would be appropriate. But, you know, given its location and how close the neighbors are and that, you know, they've suffered in the past a bit with this, I'd be inclined to err on the side of caution, and that's just my thought.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
just out of curiosity, and I guess this is a question for you guys, but given the number of concerns that our department head, our police department head has, would it be worthwhile tabling this until the next meeting, see if you guys can get on the same page and put together a proposal that would look be more reflective of the chief's concerns?
I think what the chief has to say is the concerns are real. And I would say that we wouldn't be opposed to a trial period as far as the outside patio, if let it run and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, then fine, you know, then you limit it.
That's not what you were saying.
No, I would say that we would wait to see how they do initially. Things go well, then we would revisit the patio, because it's much more difficult to give something and take it away than to not issue it at first.
From a business perspective also, I mean, that's part of the lease, is that area that we won't be able to use in reality. Because if you're gonna go out there and eat, you can't take anything with you, like a beer, to have to eat, then that space is useless. So in reality, we're leasing property that is totally useless to us, if it's not allowed to be used.
Plus you use the patio in the summertime, you're not gonna use it in September, October, November,
I'm
December.
not gonna be out there in the middle of the winter.
But the windows of the neighbors are closed during those months. And then I would ask you one question, if I may. Are you cooking out there? In the past, there's been complaints of cooking out there as well.
Well,
Concerns.
the only cooking that we may be doing is, I do a chicken barbecue. It's actually a really old recipe that came out of Little Compton. It's about 200 years old. And I usually do fundraisers. I've done a lot of fundraisers for the last 30 years. I've served up to 300 people, liver cancer type thing, child with brain cancer. We've done a lot of fundraisers. So that would be part of the cooking we would do if we did any cooking outside whatsoever, would be a charcoal-based pit that we cook the chicken on, and that's it.
Tony, I'll put you on the spot again. What is your
That's,
recommendation?
Well, actually, I don't think what's been clear, and this is a hearing, exactly how the patio is gonna be used. So the first question is there going to be service of alcohol outside on the patio, or is this just gonna be something where people can go out? That's question one. The chief is correct, is there gonna be service of food out there, and is there gonna be cooking out there? So the question really is what comes down to that kind of stuff. And I think the town council would need to know that prior to issuing a license.
Right.
So I think there's more information.
Well, and there's no bar outside. They're gonna take a drink from inside and bring it out. There's no bar set up outside.
That's correct.
Well, that's the
Okay,
question,
well,
but if there's
right.
gonna be table service for food, will that also include drinks too? I think that's the things you need to know.
Right.
yeah.
So
Is that
I'm
on-
not saying, suggesting that we
Their storage, I believe.
Madam President, being business myself, why can't we just transfer this liquor license and take care of the outside stuff at a later date so they can get busy and get their stuff done?
It's all combined. It's all combined.
So there's no way of just
So-
transferring the liquor license for indoor only, Tony?
They need, I think what happens is that the reason that they're asking for the continuance is they're gonna need to know that for their renovation purposes.
Almost have to treat it like a new.
New business.
We don't usually go through this for transfer, you're just transferring ownership of the license.
Right.
That was my point, was just to transfer the ownership and then deal with this other red tape
Sounding like
at another
you may
point.
be serving differently, and are you renovating the bar and all?
Just sanding it down and finishing it all. Just
Same amount of
same kind of
seats and
floors,
everything that was-
Yeah, sanding the wall, painting the walls, just trying to clean it up. Trying to clean it up.
This will also allow for the victualling license to get on the agenda too, because that's important for us.
Yeah, definitely need that. We need a menu, this restaurant layout. I think you've given us the entertainment
that
layout.
menu
Submitted
is-
the menu and everything already, too.
Yeah.
We've already submitted all that.
We shouldn't have that.
So do we need a motion to
Yeah, can I make-
continue this
One
to
more thing.
the next?
Hold on.
One more thing. Gentleman said he's retired police officer, I'm sorry, gotta call him a trooper, retired trooper, and I would gladly meet with him to help him iron some things out. If he feels he wants to cooperate with law enforcement, I think I can do that.
Absolutely, Chief.
Mr. Edwards?
I was just gonna make a motion to continue CA1 and CA2 to next meeting.
If that gives them enough time.
Does that give you enough time to meet with the police chief, fire chief?
I've already
Make su-
walked through with the fire chief.
All right, so you have everything there, and provide us all the information on the Vitchland. We just need to have a better plan of what you intend to operate.
Right, to do.
And it makes it very uncomfortable when we
We drew a plan with the
Easy
tables and
job.
that
For the
stuff we could
entertainment.
show, you know? And we had
But
submitted
there's
a
no
menu.
outdoor,
Yeah,
if this is the indoor, because it was the indoor licensing. Tony, since this is a public hearing, we need to open this up to the public at this point.
You can do that now, or you can defer that for the next meeting. There may be some people here that want to speak on it, so they should have the opportunity.
Right.
All right, is there anyone here from the public who wants to speak on this item? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? I will still leave it open and continue it to the next meeting,
Yes.
because I feel it's only right for the, since we will have more information at the next meeting. So we'll have a motion to continue the public hearing for the transfer of the liquor license, CA1.
Second.
And also for the the continuation of C2 on the entertainment license. I have a motion and second. All those in favor? 6 opposed? 1. Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing your plans next meeting. D, appointments and resignations. For the Economic Development Committee, we have a request to continue this to the June 26th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I also heard from Renee Jones today, and she's having a hard time keeping these people interested in, in coming. And Shirley Ann Dupree has withdrawn her request.
Why are we?
But we
deferring
were
till June?
suggesting to refer it to June so that a new administrator would come on board and be involved. However, Renee, has requested that you consider appointments tonight.
Madam President,
These people-
Yes, Mr. Edwards?
I'd just like to express that I think we should address the appointments this evening.
Second. If you were looking for one. All right.
Well, it was a request for continuance, and so now I have a motion to move forward on this appointment process, and I have a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain?
No, I voted.
Okay.
I voted.
Okay, do I have a motion? We have interviewed the remainder. Let's go through the list. Mark Pfeiffer, Louis Viola, Barbara Pelletier, Martin Van Hoff, and Elizabeth Carr. We have 2 vacancies expiring 7/15/2018 and 2
I'd like to nominate Barbara Pelletier.
Second.
Okay.
We're just doing 2?
No, we're doing the other 2.
We're doing
So you can
4.
do them all, right?
You have, so those 2 would be for the terms expiring 7/15/2018.
Oh, right, okay.
May I ask one question about this? And I think the charter is silent on this, but I do have a question. As much as Barbara is the largest cheerleader in town, but I think she's also already on several things. And some of these other folks, you know, aren't on anything, so I didn't know whether or not, as far as I know, let me clarify this. As far as I know, none of these other applicants are on any other boards or commissions.
No, Martin Van Hoff is on the open space.
Is on open space, okay.
But I do, you know, I would like to say that we've got a really good combination of people to choose from with a lot of background in finance, marketing, independent business. And so, you know, we've got some new people here that are interested in getting on board, and I'd like to just let you know.
And I would nominate Louis Viola.
Is that for the 2-year?
2-year.
Okay.
2-year
For
until
the-
18.
The 18 one.
Until 7/18.
It's 3.
How many
I thought we were
nominations?
doing 4.
No,
So
we're
you
doing,
want to specify?
yeah, you do the
you wanna
first 2 first.
specify-
Yes.
Okay, then I can hold off on that then.
So, how many nominations do we have for the 2-year slot now?
We
We have
have
2 so far.
Martin Van Hoff and Barbara Pelletier.
Okay.
No, I can hold off on that if we do it for another,
I'm gonna I'd like to nominate Elizabeth Carr for the 2-year nomination.
Second.
For the term expiring 2019.
That's the two,
yeah.
in the
No,
first group now.
The first group, the
Now,
2/18.
who's
Yeah, I
on
know.
first here? In the first,
Okay.
how many?
The first 2 that we were doing, she wants to throw in a 3rd name.
I'd like-
So we're
yes.
going to vote on 2 positions, for 3 people for 2 positions.
Okay, I think
We got it? Pay attention, we're going to have a test later.
no, I get it.
All right.
Just as long as everyone else gets it.
Yep. Yep, got it.
Okay, we have a nomination for Martin Van Hoff. We have a motion and second on that. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Opposed?
Just so he didn't get it.
1.
2.
3 to 2?
Well, you didn't
I thought you just needed,
vote.
You just need affirmatives, but
I thought you just needed to,
then we go down.
Everyone needs to vote on the one candidate, and then we go on from there. Right, if you get positive for them, there's one no.
Right.
So did everybody abstain? Because we didn't, who
Randy
voted?
did. Randy did.
Did you vote?
No, I forgot to vote.
All right. Let's do it again.
Okay.
I was too interested in counting.
All right.
Okay, so Martin Van Hoff, all those in favor of Martin Van Hoff? We have 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Abstain? 1.
Motion doesn't carry, it's great.
Okay. Next nomination is Barbara Pelletier. All those in favor? 5. Opposed? 1. Abstain? 1. Did we have a second on Louis Viola?
Yep.
No, Elizabeth
No.
Carr's the one I seconded. And,
Viola was
Councilor
not
Ryan
on there,
retracted.
Elizabeth Carr is.
Okay. Elizabeth Carr, I had nomination for Elizabeth Carr. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 to 1. Okay, nominations for terms expiring 7/15/2019.
Madam
no.
President. Oh, sorry, Councilor
No,
Ryan.
no, I already.
Counselor
I
Ryan?
already did one, so.
No, Counselor Ryan?
All right, I nominate Louis Viola.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Edwards?
I was going to nominate Mark Pfeiffer.
Do I have a
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have a nomination of
Martin
Louis
Van Hoff.
Vi-
We
Viola.
said no.
No, for the 2-year. You can nominate him for the other one, right? Can I nominate
Yeah, you can.
Martin Van Hoff for the next,
Yes.
the longer term?
Yeah.
I nominate Martin Van Hoff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, we have Louis Viola. We have a nomination. All those in favor? 3. Opposed? 1 opposed or 2? 2 opposed? I can't see.
The rest of it.
Abstain?
Yes.
2 abstain. Nomination for Mark Pfeiffer. All those in favor? 6 opposed. 6-1. We have nomination for Martin Van. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Okay, so we have Barbara Pelletier and Elizabeth Carr for terms expiring 7/15/2018. And we have Mark Pfeiffer and Martin Van Hoff for terms expiring 2019. Is that correct? Okay. Resignations, we have 2. Library Board of Trustees, a resignation for Edward A. Roderick, 19 Sparrow Drive, and to the Historical Preservation Advisory Board, Rachel Elder, 364 Highland Road. We have a motion to accept these resignations with regret and to thank them for their service.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Yes. G3, Historic Preservation Advisory Board term to expire 10/15/2019. Barbara Pelletier, 104 Barnfield Drive, reappointment for existing term from 10/15/2016.
Madam President, this is correct an error in the appointment schedule. That should have been, her name should have been on, she had requested reappointment in 16. It was not put on the agenda. We just noticed it now, so we're trying to correct.
I'd like to ask Barbara a question. Just for the record, what committees are you on?
I'm on, well, it all started out with being the representative to Discover Newport.
Right.
And then I realized that mutually, if you're on the Arts Council or the Historic Preservation, they sort of tagline into publicizing the town. And it all sort of intertwines, including the economic development. And since my term actually on the Discover Newport is over in September, and you should be looking for a representative that would be really interested, because it is somewhat time consuming. It sort of take half a day out of your life and plus extra meetings. And it's not because I'm anxious to be out on all of these committees, but I think especially these three are mutually supportive. And for instance, I don't know if you noticed in the Boston Globe on the weekend, there's a very, very nice article about Tiverton, and I emailed it, forwarded it to you and the town manager actually. So look at it. And I think we have to realize we can utilize especially our historic assets, not only to preserve them for the town, but to raise money to preserve them and to make them work for us. And that's part of economic development, so that we can, the breakers and that would really be falling apart if they hadn't been marketed. And that's all part of the whole big thing. And I'm not power hungry or anything like that. It's just,
No, I know.
And I do try to put in put in time to make it work. And some of it, for instance, the Arts Council is far more time consuming than I ever thought it would be, but it's working still, and we can expand it and do all that. So that's several explanations. Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Barbara Pelletier to the Historic Preservation Advisory Board, term that's expiring 10/15/2019, I guess retroactive to 10/15/2016.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you for your continued service.
Financial business, Denise Charette, Town Treasurer. Council vote on percentage of sales to be set aside in restricted account for costs related to developing the industrial park from sale of Parcel B to Longplex for $26,400. Good evening. This is just a reminder that you need to vote on the resolution that was passed last FTR, so that the entry can be recorded for the fiscal year end. Last year, you voted to include 100% for the other pieces, the Parcel A.
And what was that amount, Denise?
$139,951.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
so the 26,400, is that 100% of parcel B?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that would go into the industrial park.
Yes. Reserve account.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Madam President, make a motion to set aside 100% of the sale of parcel B, the 26,400, as per the resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question. And does Madam Treasurer have a suggestion or advice for us?
Well, I think since we're in the early stages of the industrial park, that it might be prudent to save the money, because we might need it as we continue to sell the parcels. Because I'm certain that we're going to be throwing in a little bit of equity and funds to continue with the infrastructure.
Mr. Ryan?
So how much of the 139,000 has been spent?
Nothing.
Nothing?
We've only sold basically the two parcels.
No, I understand that. I just wondered if any of that was spent yet. Yeah, I'm sure.
There's some pretty extensive roadworks and stuff, infrastructure that needs to be done there. So,
Is this money
General fund and not be.
So we can't put it anywhere but there?
No.
All right, then we'll leave it there.
That was,
Mr.
actually, that
Anderson?
was my question too.
Just to let the council know, we do, if I could add something.
Sure.
Yeah, Right now, I've been talking to Longplex right now about the industrial way, and there is a section of that roadway that we're gonna have to pave. So there's some of the funds, and once I have the exact price, I was gonna come to you and ask to release of those funds to pay that price, so.
Anything under $10 is good.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of 100%? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Interim Town Administrator, request approval of attached transfers from various departments to cover year-end shortfalls in rubbish, litigation, zoning legal services, streetlights, and unfunded liability accounts for a total of $153,300.
Madam President, in the motion, for whatever the council approves, could you please word it so it's up to that amount, just in case some of the departments have some little expenses that we need to back up?
Tony, can we just approve this as, without citing each line item and just
Yes,
say
you can.
agenda item F2?
Yes.
As presented, and up to $153,300.
Madam President, just to make sure, it's picky, but still, there were 2 typos on this, so I don't want you to take it out of the wrong accounts. Okay? I mean, I looked at the,
Probably don't have money.
huh? What? It's, well, because the treasurer did for the month. Okay, so but I'm having a hard time reading my writing right now. The stipends, it should be, I think, let's see, 1020, and you've got 1030. Okay?
We'll
And-
make sure they're,
and it-
because
well,
the
just
other
the
accounts
other-
wouldn't have this money in them anyway.
What?
The other, if it wasn't the proper number, it wouldn't have that amount of, so we will make sure those numbers are.
Just one other one on the clothing allowance. It's 3310, 5168. Those are the only ones,
Oh, instead of 38, it's 58.
instead of, yeah.
Okay.
That was it.
Those two.
Yeah, okay.
Very good. All right, do I have a motion?
Madam President, make a motion to approve transfers from various departments to cover year-end shortfalls in rubbish, litigation, zoning, legal services, streetlights, and unfunded liability accounts for up to $153,300.
As identified in item F2 and as amended.
Correct.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. DPW Director William Anderson requests council review of proposed landfill fees as recommended by Landfill Recycling Committee.
Thank you. So the reason I'm here tonight is to possibly change the fees we're charging presently at the landfill, and the reason is I've reviewed these costs, I've looked at how new license and how it's been affected. And what I'm trying to do is basically recover our costs, not really charge any more, try not to hurt the residents, but I'm just trying to recover costs, such as white goods right now. We don't charge anything for that, however, we're paying almost $8 a unit for any refrigerator, any air conditioner, and then we have to take a CFC out of. So I want to basically charge $12 out to recover the cost. Leaf and yard waste. Right now, we're seeing a lot of abuse at the landfill with commercial, I'll say landscapers coming in with truckloads and truckloads, not the single truckload, but multiple truckloads. I like to try and curb that. Besides the fact that we're spending anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 a year on the grinding, to grind it all down, use it as cover, use it for what we need, but we're not getting any cost recoup for that. So I'd like to see if we could charge $10 a truckload. Commercial trucks charge $25 a truckload. The $25 is what LAL right now is charging there to take the same material. So the same thing with sofa and chairs and mattresses that are not recyclable. Right now we're charging $15 per unit. I'd like to go up to $20 only because we're actually, on an average, what we're paying ABC Disposal, we're averaging over $16 a unit. Again, trying to recover our costs so that it's not taking out of the general funds. One of the other items is, right now with the pay-as-you-throw bags, the residents come up, there's no cost. Well, we have a lot of residents that come up with the big black trash bags that we're charging $2 a bag. Well, each big trash bag, you can get like 3 of the pay-as-you-throw bags in there. So when we discussed it with the committee, they made a motion back, why don't we charge $5 for every black bag? Just so that maybe get the residents to start using the pay-as-you-throw bags, or take the $5 and take that and put that into the pay-as-you-throw account. Clean wood, right now we're charging $50 a truckload, a level truckload for clean wood. I want to drop that to $25, because now if we include the cost for C&D waste, we can reduce the cost of clean wood. Again, it's a combined cost of our $12,000 to grind it all up. However, one item that's new is C&D adulterated wood, the painted wood, the pressure treated. Right now we have to separate that. We can no longer put that in the landfill. So right now we're putting in a roll-off, and we're hauling it about once a week to ABC disposal. I'm looking to charge $60 a truckload for that material, so that it covers just our cost to dispose of it, because we can't put that in the landfill, or $5 for a 35-gallon barrel. Again, these are small changes, but again, all this is to cover our costs. I'm not looking to do anything, so the resident that comes in with the same bags of leaf and yard waste, we're not looking to charge for that. We're just looking to curb on the pickup trucks that come in, and the culprits that do start just abusing our system and abusing the landfill.
Now, we're not accepting any commercial trash.
Correct. No.
Residential trash and black bags.
Correct, but we are taking residences who come up in with black bags, white bags, the bags that are not pay-as-you-throw bags. And we're charging them right now only $2 for that each bag, but the volume equivalent, you can probably get 2 to 3 of those are, 2 to 3 times the amount in a black bag that you can get when it's one of the pay-as-you-throw bag. Right.
When would this go into effect, Bill?
I believe we need,
This has to go to the fee resolution. Mr. Anderson's aware of that. He just wanted to let the council know that was the direction he was going.
Can't vote on this.
No, we have to advertise in public hearing to a fee resolution. All our fees are in a resolution. We usually do that around August.
We can't vote on this?
No.
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 Can we,
No, it has to be a public,
Has to have a public
it has
hearing.
to have a public hearing.
All goes into fee resolution where all other departments submit their requests. It has to be done annually.
Madam President, or I guess the question for the solicitor, could we make a motion to move this item as is to the field resolution process? It's going to happen anyways? Okay.
so I think there's no action to be taken, but certainly we thank you for your efforts and the landfill committee to go over these items and come up with cost increase where necessary and a decrease in the case of one of these as appropriate. So, yes, we'd like to see this move forward with a public hearing on a fee resolution, and we'll get that scheduled.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't go anywhere, Bill.
I know.
New business, G1, DPW Director William Anderson requests council approval of Rhode Island Resource Recovery Contract, 2-year agreement for disposal and recycling services.
Thank you, Madam President. This is Rhode Island Resource Recovery's standard contract that's in front of you. It's for FY 18 and 19, has to be signed and sent back to them by August 1st. The only portion that applies to us right now, because we do have the landfill, is the recycling portion, so that's really why we're signing the contract. So we could take advantage of if they do have a 50-50 buyback or 50-50, we get money back from them for taking our recyclables there. Just wanted to note to the council that, the price for waste disposal at Resource Recoveries has been $32 per year, set by the General Assembly, and hasn't changed until this contract. Interesting enough, it's going to be $39.50 in 2018 and $47 in 2019. So by the time we're actually closed and going there, the price is going to be considerably much higher than what we're used to seeing right now.
Yes. Okay, this contract needs to be executed by August 1st, and was this reviewed by the solicitor?
It was, yes, and one of the questions I had that Bill answered, and also Mr. McGonigal at Resource Recovery, is that if the town currently has a landfill, why are we executing this agreement? The answer is just what Mr. Anderson said. There is language in here that references statutes that exempt Tiverton from having to send their municipal waste to the central landfill. This is the standard contract. Every community in the state signs it. He's exactly correct, and I see no obstacles to, or bars for why it should not be signed and executed. There are advantages to Tiverton to having this contract in place.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
I'd like to move approval of the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Contract 2-year agreement for disposal and recycling services.
Do I have a second?
Madam
Any
President?
discussion? Ms. Ryan?
I think you should put your name up here.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was my little
Okay.
typo from an older.
That's what I figured, you were using up old paper,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good, but you're saving money, but still, that's,
Yeah, Leona caught it, actually, yeah.
okay, good,
In that
that's
case,
all.
I'd like to amend my motion to include the proper name of our DPW director.
All right. I have a motion and second. All those in favor of approving this 2-year agreement with Rhode Island Resource Recovery Contract? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you. Twin River Tiverton LLC, 2A, request approval and advertising of RFP for construction plan review and building code life safety inspection services. I think this is the second time around. This was where we would have the actual language that would go on the advertisement, which is on page 1, and then the RFP detailed information to be given to any person seeking to bid on this proposal is attached. Any questions from the council?
Madam President, I just want to bring up one point. I spoke with Chief Lloyd today. We had, the building official and I had made some changes that you have
Yeah.
from what we originally submitted, because it wanted to make it clear that Tiverton Fire would still do the fire code inspections. And also the building official wanted to have the option, at his option, of whether the town would do the mechanical inspections to the existing mechanical inspectors. I spoke with Chief Lloyd today. He wanted some further language revisions, which we made and sent to the solicitor to make it clearer that Tiverton Fire was going to be doing those type of fire code life safety inspections. So we made that change to the ad and also to the RFP. So that's, I don't know if that's been circulated, but we gave it to the solicitor and circulated to the building official and Chief Lloyd today.
Yeah, I did get it late. It's okay on my end. I understand what Chief Lloyd is after, and it's fine as an amendment.
Chief Lloyd and Neil Hall?
Yeah.
Could you please come up? So first question, have you seen the amendments? And
I do have it.
okay.
My initial thought, when I reached out to Mr. Russo, was that it talked about the life safety code. That's why we have a fire marshal. We believe he's fully capable of doing this. That's what we've hired him to do. If he needs a consultant or he needs extra help, there are other people in the state he can reach out to. So I wanted to keep that under the fire department where it should be, and I think that's the place for it to be. Also to include the sprinklers and the standpipe system associated with this property.
Okay. Neil?
Good evening.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, I also had a chance to look at it. Mark and I had met previously last week. I just want to make sure, Mark, I heard you say mechanical. I would like the option of plumbing, mechanical, and electrical, and I think that's what it ended up being. You had it in parentheses, and you didn't say it tonight. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Plumbing, mechanical, electrical, I will have the option. My guys want to handle it. They think they can handle it. They're part-time. They're ready to go full-time. If something happens to one of them, I do have the option now with this. I can bring in an outside third party if something happens to one of my guys that they can't be there. I'm good with everything else that's on there. I really have no questions.
Yeah, Neil is correct. I use the word mechanical, but what we actually set aside on page 4 is it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and on low voltage specialty systems. All those, it's up to him to decide whether he wants the third party to do it or not.
The changes on page 3, project description, first paragraph. A sentence was added to the end of that paragraph, notwithstanding, Tiverton Fire will retain all life safety / fire code plan review and inspections.
Any other questions from the council?
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve advertising for the RFP construction plan review and building code life safety inspection services, subject to the changes outlined by Mr. Russo.
Second.
I have motion and second. Any further discussion? The date on this for return is June 9th. Is that, does that give enough time with the advertisement?
Yes.
We're going to be taking care of the advertisement. I believe
Yes.
it's set for the Garbage Journal tomorrow.
Okay, excellent.
Madam President, if I just add, again, Council Edwards added in on the end the life safety code. I want to make sure we have that stricken from it in the RFP going out. We're not looking for life safety code review.
Yeah, no, subject to the changes that were outlined.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, I just read it off the paper as it was written. Don't worry, Chief, you can do the inspections.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Also, to be approval of Fifth Amendment to Master Video Lottery Terminal Contract.
Madam President, as a result of discussions that took place in 2015 prior to the referendum, I think one of the things the town wanted was not only revenue protections in the legislation, but the town also wanted contractual revenue protections. So Twin River has worked with the State Department of Revenue to put together an amendment to what's called the master contract, because for the first time, Lincoln and Tiverton will be signatories to the master contract that's otherwise between the state and the operator. And in this particular instance, see at page 4, there's 3 main points. One is that it sets forth the net terminal income that will be derived by the town from the video lottery terminals. Secondly, the percentage of table gaming revenue that will be generated from the facility that will go to the town. And then, most importantly, it provides the contractual protection that the town will receive at least $3 million in revenue protection. That's a contractual protection. The solicitor today asked me a very good question, and that is, the idea was to extend that through 2030. It was a 30-year protection. And there are options to be exercised to advance that from 2025 to 2030. And the solicitor's question was, how do those options work? And from the town's perspective, you are protected, because if you look at paragraph 3A2 on page 4, the way the state put this together is so long, they use the definition last possible day of operations, but what it boils down to is so long as gaming operations are taking place at that site, you have your contractual protections, whether or not it's extended or not. I mean, we wouldn't have any reason not to extend it, but if we didn't for some reason, your contractual protections go on until gaming ceases at the location.
Very good. Any questions from the council? Mr. DeSisto?
Yes, I've reviewed this. This is the first time that the local communities will be able to sign on to the state and master contract. The rendition by Mr. Russo is correct. This agreement would extend to 2025. There is an option for it to extend to 2030, but that requires Tiverton Twin River to agree to that. But there is that phrase in the paragraph on 3A.1 regarding the fact that you have your $3 million coming in as long as there is gaming on the site. It's important to note that the protections that are extended to Tiverton under the master contract only relate to the income derived from the table game revenue and the video lottery terminal revenue. And that's the protection. But the master contract does not continue on for anything else to the local community. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I have a question. So if,
Mr. LeBeau?
there's a surprise, huh? It's money, that's why. If the casino goes under in 3 years, we get, at that point, $9 million, and then we're stuck with a big ball over there. We're not getting paid through 2025, whether they're there or not.
That's correct, yes.
Can we fix that, make them pay?
Straight through.
Make them pay straight through, or have some kind of a something in case something does happen, so we're not stuck with?
Well, I
Or is it too late
assume
for that?
if gaming ceases on the site, that it would be part of a bankruptcy action.
And who belongs to the building if a bankrupts, you know,
If
they go
there's
bankrupt?
bankruptcy, we'd be with the other creditors, and that's what we would do. But under this agreement,
Not that they're gonna go bankrupt.
no, it's
I'm just saying.
it's geared to gaming taking place on the site. There's no gaming, you're not gonna get any money. This also does not cover what you derive in taxation from the site. The real estate property tax, the tangible taxes, and the hotel, what I call the hotel tax.
In the event that Twin River as an entity was sold or otherwise merged with another business entity?
This master contract would continue on. Any successor organization would take subject to the terms of the master contract. And that's because essentially the state has a very large role in this, and essentially these games, the machines are being rented by Tiverton Twin River, as they are up in Lincoln. So anybody purchasing or anybody acquiring would acquire subject to this contract.
Madam President, one more question.
Mr. LeBeau, proceed.
The 3 million, it could possibly go up but not down.
That's correct, yes. That's the floor.
That's,
If the income derived from those two revenue streams goes below $3 million, the state will make up the difference. If those numbers exceed $3 million, Tiverton would derive that, and it's not locked in at $3 million. This is what's known as a slippage clause.
So, Madam President, I have a question.
Ms. Ryan?
Some of the host community agreements that I've been looking at talk about whether or not it changes the video slot machines, if that goes up or down, or the game tables go up or down. So they want to make, so this is going out to 2025. So, you know, it's conceivable, but I'm just saying this stuff, that they might want to get more gaming tables in there if that's the thing that's making more money. And is that going to have an effect? It should be okay, I would think, because you're working with percentages. But I've looked in other host community agreements things, and they've specifically have said if the number of gaming tables change, or if the number of video slot machine terminals change, then this is void. And I don't see anything in here about specific numbers.
Well, if you notice, I'm sorry.
No, that's all.
If you notice, this is an amendment to the master video lottery terminal contract.
Mm-hmm.
This does not embody the entire contract.
Right.
This is only an amendment as it relates to the town of Tiverton and the gaming that is derived from it. There are other provisions in the existing master contract that regulate the amount of video lottery terminals in
Mhm.
gaming tables that go there.
Right.
Assuming that the state agrees to allow Tiverton Twin River to have more video, the games and the lottery terminals, the slot machines. The percentages wouldn't change, but theoretically, because there's more machines, the income would increase. But the percentage would stay the same.
Right, I just didn't, I know, that's that big book that you have with all the regulations.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, well, I'd rather ask you the question than go through that big book again and find out.
Yes.
Okay, so this really basically should be fine until 2025, correct?
That's correct, yes, unless it's extended out to 2030.
Yes.
Because there's that potential that'll go
Okay. And
under this agreement.
Okay, I also saw, and I don't even remember where it was I saw, because I've read so many of these things, there was an issue if it's got to be, and I don't know if it was Twin Rivers at all, if it's, so we've got table games and we got video, the slots. But in one of the host community agreements, it said it's got to be both of them, not if it's only the gaming, then all of a sudden, the agreement goes away. And I don't know if that's, it's not in this one. It's just that I've read so many of these things, and I didn't anticipate it, but it's like, is there any reason why we should think that the video slots will go away and it's just gonna be gaming tables? Because
No.
then that makes it, that changes the ballgame.
No, but I will say this,
Yeah.
not only under the state statutes
Yeah.
that govern gaming in the state of Rhode Island, but also this master contract, you will notice that there is a division between the video lottery terminals and the table games.
Yes.
And there's a difference in the percentage of the income derived. And that goes basically, it goes basically on the fact that there are higher costs on the table games.
And they make more money out of it as well. Higher cost to run them, but also they're gonna make more money out of it. Correct?
That's actually an arguable point.
Okay.
And I only say that because I was involved in some litigation with Mr. Russo several years ago, where it appeared not to be the case, but I don't know if that's changed.
Okay, that's fine.
However, I only say this.
Yeah.
That the master contract provides for these two types of gaming procedures, I guess. I don't know what else to call them.
Yeah.
And it contemplates that there will be both. In order for either one of those to be removed from Tiverton Twin River, that would require a change in the master contract with the state.
Okay. And they probably wouldn't go for it.
Highly unlikely.
Okay, all right, thanks.
On the same point, if they want to increase the number of slots, or the number of table games, the state controls the agreement, and we would have to sign off on any increase.
No.
No?
Not in my opinion. No. The way that I read, Mr. Russo might disagree with me, but the way that I read this is, you've signed on to this, you'll sign on to this amendment if you vote in favor of it. This governs the percentage of income you get and the minimum amount that you get. There are other provisions in the master contract, which I don't consider you to be a party to, because you're only a party to this amendment. So to me, if the table games are to change in the number, and the number of slot machines are to change, that would be something that would go between the state and Tiverton Twin River. The only time that you would be able to control that is if they would need to expend out and have an addition to what the existing facility is. But in terms of the amount of the games, that's something that would be between Tiverton Twin River and the state.
And I don't disagree with that analysis, but the council will remember that we did commit to a zoning ordinance which provided certain parameters of what that place could be without your further input. So we would, per our commitment, come back to you. The solicitor is right, I'm just looking at the contract, I agree with him.
Very good.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
I'd like to move approval of the Fifth Amendment to Master Video Lottery Terminal Contract.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Russo.
Bring your checkbook.
Okay. G3, Chief Blakey requests to retain 5 new officers from Municipal Police Academy. Chief?
Madam President, members of the council, I figured I'd sit it for this one.
Okay.
As you know, first of all, these gentlemen here and the lady here, they are our recruits that we're graduating Friday. Unsolicited, they showed up here, and I thank them very, very much. Thank you very much. Now it also goes to my officers here who showed up, simply by reading the agenda, and of course, I'm very happy, very honored that they are here. And remember, they have guns.
Anyone's trying to make.
And I look ready. In all seriousness, thank you. Please be seated. In January 2017, we put 6 recruits in the police academy, but it started long before that. Analyzing the academy, our staffing, seeing the trend of our call volume increasing I felt it was imperative that we assess the department and try to staff the department accordingly. In my nearly 14 years here, only 2 years we've actually had a full staff for reasons of retirements, which is minimal, people leaving for other departments, and unfortunately, the Rhode Island Police Academy's scheduling is twice a year. Being, if not the second lowest paid department in the state, we aren't really readily available to accept, or not, nor the people seek to come here as auto transfers. We do have 3, 4 people from other departments who came here. One was a retiree from North Providence, who was an outstanding officer. We were fortunate to have him. We have others from Little Compton. We have one from a college. These officers have worked very, very well for us, and I'm proud to say that they've established good careers here. But as we move forward, we're not able to retain. One of the negative parts of my career here has been the 12 people that we've trained, and we have a reputation as being one of the best departments for training in the state, bar none. I mean, that's a hell of an accolade for our people. We send them to school. We pay for everything that they've got to go to. Many of the things are through grants. And other chiefs say, thank you very much, as I train them and they leave us, to actually end up performing very well in other agencies. So the purpose to come before you today is to explain the situation we have. I do have the letters, contingent officer of employment, that were signed on November 2nd. Conditional officer employment, contingent upon graduating from the police academy. These 5 individuals will be graduating. Of the 6 that went in, 5 will complete the academy on Friday. And I congratulate you. It's a hell of a task. Still, there's a little bit of work to do. There are 12 weeks of field training that's required before they will count toward minimum staffing in this department and actually help us with our staffing and help our overtime situation. I recently read about how do you reduce overtime, and one of the things they said was keep a full staff, and that's what we're trying to do here. I'm certainly not trying to shove the manpower at the town. It's what I truly believe is necessary. Aside from the casino, aside from Longplex, aside from our call volume increasing, Grinnell's Beach expanding, which is going to be a draw, which is great. The housing projects, or developments, I should call them, on Sousa Road, the cluster housing, all of which I anticipate will increase our volume substantially. We live next to the city of Fall River, the 8th largest city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's rated 18th as the most violent cities nationally. I question that statistic, but as we all know, we're having a serious epidemic of opioids, and we're a part of that. We've lost people. All my officers are trained in Narcan and to try to save a life. I don't know how to put a value on that. There is none, because now there's no guarantees in our life where you come from, what your station in life is, what your social parameters are, that your grandchild, your child, is not going to be affected by this. And I don't want the Tiverton Police to be a reactive police department. I need us to be proactive. Our detective division is depleted. In Newport County, to get closer to home, we are the second, out of the 6 communities, we are second only to the city of Newport for felony packages to the district court. That didn't happen by accident. It happens to a great deal by geography, because of our location. We cannot put up that invisible wall. We cannot say, don't come over here. We invite them here. We have a beautiful beach. We have a tennis courts, a basketball courts. We have skateboard parks. We have a beautiful library. I don't think some of the bad guys come here to read, but okay. But this is something we have to be cognizant of. And that's why I took a hard, firm look at where we were going, what we were doing, and being proactive. And that's why I brought this before you, not to circumvent the council. I see where it could have been better brought to light, but I discussed it at length with the former administrator and brought out all the points. We have 6 people right now age qualified to retire today. And that means 18 months from now or 12 months from now, we will get an officer to replace that officer if we were fortunate enough to offer something monetarily. And if I hear again how we're getting the casino, I don't want to get angry about that, but they're working 2 jobs to make what a cop makes in another community by 1 job. Is that a fair assessment, to work your people to that level, that they have to work 2 jobs? Let me explain a little bit here. If they work a detail at the casino, they can make money. That's true, but it's also time away from their families. And I don't think we have to do that if we give them a fair wage. It's excellent to have the casino and make that extra money and raise your quality of life as you want it. But if you have to do it to maintain a normal way of life, those are for the extras, time away from your family. So, that being said, I really feel and I believe in what I'm doing. I understand the budget constraints. I truly do. And I will do whatever's necessary. To start off with, I need 12 more weeks to field train these people. Because I've had 2 people fail and fall out at field training. Okay? And if we lose those people, we have to now take 26 weeks with other people. We're not fortunate enough to have a cycle, and like Massachusetts does, it has a continuous cycle of police academies that every 3 months I can get someone into. You may have to travel halfway across the state, but you can do it if you have the desire and the need for manpower. So what I'm saying to the Tiverton Town Council and the people of the town of Tiverton is invest in your police department. It's a very good police department. I've been doing this longer than I really care to admit in public, but over 4 decades, and I have some of the best officers I've ever served with. And I trained in the police academy for 5 years in Massachusetts, and I've met a hell of a lot of cops. So if you can find a way, see fit, I would like to keep all 5 of these officers. I currently have 1 opening. I have 1 early retirement. You know that we have pending litigation. I told you there's 5 people that are eligible to retire. And I also have 2 people who has informed me that they are looking elsewhere, and they're not my senior people. I can tell you that July 1st is the beginning of the new fiscal year. And I'm not predicting this, but I can tell you in the past, people, when they get their vacation time or they get their longevity or their vacation, that may be the time that they tend to pick to retire. So those are the facts as I have them, and I'd be open to any questions from the council.
Any questions from the council?
Madam President,
Proceed.
how many men do you call a full force? How many men, in your mind, do you think you should have?
Thank you for that question.
But I didn't hear it. Can you ask it again, please?
Federally, the federal guidelines
No, how much? No,
Well,
I
I'm
don't
going to
want.
tell you what the federal guidelines are, and then we'll talk. Federal guidelines is 2 per 1,000. We're at 16,000, so full force here is 32.
Per contract. Per contract.
Per contract, it says 27.
Okay.
But
How many men do you have right now, not counting the recruits?
right now, I have 28,
Not counting the recruits?
not counting those 5.
Okay, so counting the recruits, you have 33.
Correct.
Now, 28 includes you and the captain.
I am the only non-union employee, yes.
Okay. So how many openings do you think you have, if you have 28 now?
I currently have 2 openings to get to the required 30.
Who requires 30?
Actually, we had 31, as I've discussed with you previously, and I negotiated with Mr. Former Administrator to give up my cars for this year to get another officer.
Well, actually, the impact statement from the contract says that that officer was given up so that the police would get a 3% raise in the second year and the third year. That's
Correct.
what the impact, and I was in the contract.
As was I.
Right. And I remember this specifically. That officer was given back to us so that we could give 0 to 3%. 3%.
Okay.
Do you agree with me?
I do agree with
It's
that.
in the impact statement.
I do agree with
So it
that.
had nothing to do with the cars during the contract.
Not during the cars, not during the
Maybe-
contract
okay,
negotiation.
Maybe something privately done with Mr. Wojcik, but not with the council.
Not with the council.
Sure, okay.
But that was a different fiscal year. During this coming fiscal year,
No, this is a 3-year contract.
I
though,
understand
and
that.
So you gave up
I
that
understand
man
that.
for the 3-year contract.
okay.
Okay.
What I'm trying to explain to you is, We had normally gone 3, 2, 2 on the cars. I assessed my vehicles. I went back and I said to Mr. Wojcik, who said he needed vehicles for other departments, there was $66,000 on the table. For this fiscal year, give me that man back, and I will give you, not that I'm giving you what I'm negotiating with my position to say, I will give up those 2 cars if you will let me have my man back.
Shouldn't
in the
that,
staff.
shouldn't that discussion have come through the council, though? Any new
Through-
hires
I think-
per charter has to come through the council. So because that position was gave up, it should have come to us before that was agreed to. Is that correct?
I would say that the administrator should have brought that to you as a negotiation for the budget,
Right,
for
it was-
budget preparation.
Right, it was never brought to us. My problem is fiscally, we cannot afford this. And I don't know if you have any ideas where we can afford 33 men. Because you're not budgeted this next year for 33 men.
I do anticipate some other additional vacancies.
But suppose, just suppose that there isn't, how will we be able to do this?
I don't know. At this particular time, I'd have to assess it, but I do have ideas, and I'm looking for monies, as you know, all the time. And, I mean, but I'm telling you that we're not gonna prepare, and I can tell you this, the staffing, once they become certified after their field training, there will be a reduction in overtime, so there will be some funds there. There's also a reduction in funds. We've lost 1 lieutenant, we've lost 1 sergeant. We are gonna replace that rank because it's contractual, but that's also some monies that we're gonna save in the interim.
How much will this additionally cost us next year if we keep on the 33 men? Do you have any idea?
I gave you the figures for the academy, and I also gave you the figures for how much it would cost in overtime to go without them. It was more than double. One was $133,000 for the expense, and the cost of overtime was approximately $180,000, $178,000.
But to keep them on, to increase your force to 33 men, okay, just suppose that we don't have any reductions.
If it was for 3 months, as I'm
No,
saying, for the 12 months?
I'm talking about forever.
Well, first of all,
Because
you're
then
being
how-
premature, because forever, if 12 weeks I may have, and I hope not, I don't want to use this as a way to cut people, but if I don't have someone pass, and I had 2 that failed, then that would reduce 1. But if I discharge 2 or 3, whatever the figure that you're thinking about, then we're going to spend all this money again on retraining these people. There will be a large gap in the time frame to get these new people, and that will be additional overtime that's going to be incurred.
But that's if we lose all those men, if. Because you've
There
told
are,
me
there are,
before.
there are some ifs involved.
Right.
But I can see 2 potential ones right now, very clearly. I have a third one I have 3 that will give you a total of 5, I can clearly see right now that have approached me. One of which is not within my control.
Madam President, you want to go first? With 40 years on the department, have you ever made a judgment like this that's failed?
I fail all the time. Mr.
You and me both.
This was not haphazard, this was not spur of the moment. This was well thought out over a period of months. I have no one to point a finger at. I did confer with other people in the department, other chiefs, and I did discuss it with the administrator. Again, this wasn't to circumvent, this was to trying to get a real basis of where we were going, knowing the need that I have of vacancies in the detective division, trying to get a full staff and become proactive.
Now, in January, when you appointed, when they sat here, we had a council meeting in January. These guys have not been, the officers have not been, their contracts have not been signed yet. So we had an idea that they were coming, and I knew back in November that you were looking to put.
Contracts were signed. You started this in November, didn't you?
November 2nd.
This,
November 2nd.
what I have here, as you requested, Mrs. DiMederos, is the letters of conditional employment contingent upon probationary, academy, psychological, everything. They're all signed, and they're dated November 2nd. The academy started on January 9th.
But we acted like, back then in January, the council acted like we didn't know they were coming.
We didn't know. I was in the
Uh,
previous.
Randy, I didn't know.
Just, listen,
You may have known.
Randy,
But we did
formally
not know.
In front of the council, it was never discussed. I didn't
It
even
was
know.
discussed.
No, it was not.
It was, we sat in the
No,
library.
in November.
No, I'm not worried about November. I wasn't here in November.
But
I
in
didn't
Nov-
care what happened in November.
But in November, that's when this was signed.
Right, I understand
And the
that.
council backed
But this
down.
council knew before these
It
guys
was
signed a
already
contract.
signed. No.
No, they sat right here. I walked in and watched them sign it after our meeting.
No, they were sworn in.
But anyway, I don't want to argue with anybody.
Okay.
I just need, the facts are, the chief is the department head. He knows what he's been doing. He's been doing it for 40 years. It's an insurance policy. Worst case scenario, it's an insurance policy. We are going to pay these officers or we're going to pay overtime. There's no two ways about it. I would just like to make a motion to table it and till they're done with their field training.
Chief,
Ms. Hilton?
Ms. Hilton?
regardless of how this happened, and, you know.
I agree.
And understanding that it seems that the prior town administrator, in frankly violation of the charter, agreed to employment, which it clearly states requires the approval of the town council. Sort of here we are now. Your salary line for next year basically is the same, other than the 3% increase that we've committed to for the existing officers. So your salary line in the new budget, the one that was just approved, doesn't cover 5 people, additional officers, nor does it cover any of the other ancillary things. In other words, their uniforms, their holiday, all of that sort of other stuff. You know, all up, you know, we're probably looking at $200,000 plus to cover 5 people.
Possibly, all told,
All told, about
from the academy and everything, yeah.
About $256,000.
It's over
which-
split over 2 fiscal years.
No.
Coming from this, well, we're starting now in
Well,
okay.
The point is, we would be well into the 6 figures to try and find this budget money for these folks. And while, you know, I can appreciate that it would be nice if 2 things happened. It would be nice if Rhode Island was more organized about how they ran their police academy, and it was similar to Massachusetts, so you wouldn't have these only twice a year. And it would be nice if we could have what-if staffing. But I don't see any place in the budget to have what-if staffing. The other concern I have about this is, you know, we signed a contract with a number, and specifically a number so that, with a fiscal impact statement that we would have that would carry us through the end of 2018, so that we would know how much this contract would cost us. And that included actually a 1-person reduction in order to be able to give, you know, well-deserved raises to people. I just don't see where, A, there is the money, and B, I don't see that we should take, you know, staffing issues and specifically staffing issues that were related to funding other things in contracts and say, well, you know, we signed that contract, you know, 2 years ago, we don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, I can't imagine where the funds are gonna come from to pay for all these folks. And let me finish,
Okay,
please,
please,
Chief,
I'm
and then
sorry.
I'm happy to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
You know, any place in town hall, the police department, the fire department, any place, people could leave and people could retire. I
Absolutely.
mean, that's a fact of life. I just don't see where, you know, we're in a position, and to be honest, you know, you mentioned to us in January, I think, when this all came to light and we found out that all of this was happening, that, you know, there were a whole bunch of people that could retire. It's 5 months later, and, you know, one person who has medically retired, I understand, and other than that, you know, I don't see, for as long as you've been in this business, I don't see that anybody's got a crystal ball on, you know, when people may or may not choose to retire.
Well, well, first of all, let me, with respectfully, we're not talking about 5 people in this $200,000 figure. We are talking about for 3 that we have, not, because we have 2 openings.
But, well, I'm not, I have to admit, I'm not sure that I think you have 2 openings. I mean, when I look at the contract and the number of personnel that it says based on the contract that was signed, I don't see that you have
What number
2
do you see,
openings.
please?
So this says 26 sworn IBPO members. That's what it says in this contract, 26.
Okay, and there's +1 for the school department.
No, that's included in, there's a
Okay.
list and it's included. So it says, this contract says 26 sworn IBPO officers.
That's what the contract says.
So is the contract not worth
No,
anything?
of course it's worth something, but all the time I've been here, we've been in the vicinity of 30 people. There's been some vacancies. There's been vacancies, people come and go.
But we changed it with the contract. This is what was agreed to.
Well, I would really strongly urge the council, if they even remotely get to that number, to hold on to your pocketbook, because there'll be more overtime than you could ever comprehend. I say this not as a matter of fact, I'm telling you, you'll be decimated with the overtime,
But why didn't you say that during the contracts then?
because we never entertained that. That was a minimum so the town couldn't lay off people, and they gave a pecking order of how they would come back. Never would they ever remotely, that was just a bare bones minimum operation standard. If, I would never presume that this town would try to get down to 26 or 27 people. That is, I mean, I couldn't fathom that.
And we should have changed this, and maybe we'll think about that next time.
Okay.
Madam President.
So,
Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Well, first off, I want to thank the 5 cadets that took the time to show up tonight and congratulate you on graduating this Friday. I just want to say that, you know, when we sit here, we look at the 26 number, 26, 27, minimum staffing, whatever it may be. I think we as a council need to step back and take a look at what is most important to the taxpayers and the residents of this town, and that should be health and safety. And if the chief is going to sit here in front of us and tell us that your minimum staffing number is not going to do the job, we should listen. Because, quite frankly, none of us sitting here on this council are qualified to be the chief of police. And I'm not going to sit back and allow, or I'm not going to sit back and listen to this criticism of the chief, who's done a great job for the town for the last 13 years, and who has tried to put us in a position where there is an incredibly long lead time between the time that we get new guys into the academy and the time that they're actually ready to go. We've got 12 more weeks of field training. With all due respect to the cadets that are here, or the candidates, all 5 may not make it through the field training. The chief's already said he's had 2 people that have fallen off during field training already in prior classes. So I would concur with Councilor LeBeau that we table this subject until we get, you know, through the bulk of the field training and take a look and see what it looks like. And by the way, the chief also did mention, typically when guys are going to look to retire, it's going to happen around the contract anniversary, when they're going to get their longevity and their uniform allowances and this big lump sum of cash, and then they're out the door. So we're sitting here, it's the middle of May. Why don't we just stick around and wait another 6 weeks and see what happens?
Well, I've been
that's the prudent thing to do, and we have to sit here as a body and do what's prudent for the town residents and the taxpayers who elected us to be here.
if I could add one thing, we have 5 recruits here, and again, I understand fully the financial aspect of it. I've brought over $1 million to this town during our tenure, okay, whether through grants or seizures or whatever is taking place. Totally irrelevant because we're here today. But I want to tell you, they will be held to pay in a recruiting in the future, because no one is going to want to come here and then be laid off. I've talked to another chief who was in a similar situation as this. He had a retiree who retired, and he put the person in the academy, and these gentlemen and lady know who it is. He's being laid off because the lieutenant came back to work. He changed his mind. So you're right, Ms. Hilton, we are restricted by this academy rotation, if you will. If need be, I will, I'm going to tell you now that I will be retiring, and one of my positions will go to those young men. That's how strong.
Madam President, Madam President, if I may.
Mr. Perry?
You know, we can kick this around, but I was wondering if there was some kind of offer we could make to the people that are eligible to retire that could get them to leave, and we would have room for these recruits to put on. We'd be saving money because we wouldn't be paying unemployment fees, and we wouldn't be paying top step fees for the officers that have been there for all these years. So that may be a savings too. I don't know what the figures are. We'd have to look at that, but I think that what Councilor LeBeau and Edward said about maybe continuing this to, you know, a few more weeks to see if we can come up with some kind of figures, and maybe that would work.
But we'd have
Madam
to
President?
continue at 12 weeks, right?
Well,
What did you say?
whatever, 6 weeks.
Madam
You know, I don't
President?
know. Like he says, maybe somebody won't make it
Yep.
for 12, you
I
don't
don't-
know,
I
so it
don't
might
know
be
exactly.
5 weeks, it might be 6, but at least it's a way of getting through this so we can crunch the numbers and see
Yeah.
what's possible, rather than, you know, go through this back and forth, you know, ridiculing and humiliation. I just think it's something that we should look at and, you know, try to postpone for the time being.
Ms. Ryan, did you have a comment?
One, I don't think it's ridiculing and humiliation. I think you have to have these tough discussions. I think that, you know, to do accusations back and forth, I think it's got to be respectful, but it's still got to be, it's got to be tough. But let me just ask you, so the field stuff, is that a separate amount, or is that included in some of these numbers you've been throwing around?
That's the same, that's included. They will be
That's-
paid while they're training for 12 weeks.
But is that part of that 200,000 you were talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say so.
So, okay, so here's another question. So suppose these guys, let's say all 5 of them go through. And I've asked this before, and I haven't gotten a really good answer, and I don't mean just from you, I mean,
Please.
I've asked other people. If somebody passes, say all 5 of them pass,
Okay?
and you hire somebody, how long do they have to stay in Tiverton?
We don't, all we have in our contract, referring to the contract,
Mhm.
is they have to pay back a portion of what they've paid in. It's like $2,500 in increments, and it diminishes the longer they stay. We don't have anything in the contract.
No, I mean, but we've paid for the training, we've paid for all of that,
Right.
and that doesn't that mean that, you know, okay, we put you through 6 months training or something like that, so
Correct.
you owe us a year or something? Is there something like that in the
We
contract?
have
No.
there's no clause.
Is that
No.
something that's typical in Rhode Island?
It is not. That is typical in Rhode Island. There is no contractual provision that I know of that obligates an officer that goes through the municipal training academy to stay at the department that put him through for any length of time.
So these, let me just follow up on that.
Mhm.
So if we put them through
Mhm.
and they pass,
Correct.
and they say, well, you know, it's been really great being here in Tiverton, but guess what? I'm gonna go over this other place. I'm gonna go to here. They can do that.
Yes, ma'am. But I can answer you this.
Yeah.
There are people who have graduated from the academy and went in to see the chief in other departments that I know of,
Mhm.
and have left within a week. There are other, as I said earlier, we've had 12 people do that
Yeah.
here. Only it's been a little bit more of a time span, maybe a year, but usually with under 3 years. Okay? That's the bad part, that we've lost so many talented people.
Right. Yeah, so look, unfortunately, I can see both sides. I can see where you're coming from with the police. I can understand that. I do understand that. I also understand we don't have money. So when we asked you, where are we going to get the money to pay for this? And your response was, you don't know. And I don't know either. But that's, to me, is a big concern. It's like you talk about the community. Yes, the community, yes, these guys have invested in the community. I understand that. I think that's great. But also the bottom line is, people want to know, because we were talking about 5 more people, not talking
Okay.
about 1 or 2. We're talking about 5 more people.
3.
Go ahead.
We're talking about,
3
no, I was saying 3.
Oh,
We're
I
talking
have my
about 3.
glasses on.
We're talking about 3.
Oh, no, but we're talking
We
about
all-
5 putting them through.
We have to do that anyhow. If the 2 we're replacing have to go through certain criterias, and they're
Yep.
doing that now.
Yep.
Whether it be the background check, to the psychological, to the academy, field training, then they become staff, counted toward staffing. Those are the 2 that we definitely need right now.
Okay.
The three we're talking about,
Yep.
that I vision, to answer your question, where we're gonna get the money from is, we have a pending litigation. Okay?
Mm.
We have 5 other people who are looking to retire. I know my department, I know my staff. They have spoken to me and told me things, and I'm not gonna betray their confidence.
No.
They've told me that they're leaving. They told me that they're looking. Yes, the other ones I described to Mr. Wojcik, I anticipated, given I can't read a crystal ball or go in someone's head, but when someone comes to me in confidence and said, I've put an application in Department A, well, I better wake up and pay attention to that, or I gotta wait a given time. So if I tell you I don't know, I don't know with a certainty, but I have a damn good idea where it's coming from, or I wouldn't be sitting here. That was thought of in detail with the other gentleman, okay? And as I said before, I don't mean I'm gonna leave because of threat. I've got 42 years here. I got 14 months left, 16 months left of my contract. They've started their career. I'll gladly give that up for one of them. Okay? And that's how strongly I feel about it.
Okay, so if I can just kind of like recap here.
Can I say one more thing before I forget? I want to thank you all for listening to the point of view and taking the time to hear me. And I hope I haven't wasted your time, because this is very pertinent to your community. Okay? It really and truly is. Thank you.
Nancy?
Madam President, I just have a couple of comments here to make. I think John's right. I wouldn't know whether they needed 10 new recruits. I have no idea how much running that department does. But after 28 years of being here, I know the process. We go through contracts, and this contract specifically states why the raise and how many officers. We go through advertising. I have the request to advertise for a position of police officer back in August. We go through that process before the council, because what the council, and I'm afraid some of the new members don't realize, it is your responsibility to determine they need 10 men, they need 5. And there is a charter, and it's under the police department, not under the administrator, that says any changes in the force will go before the council. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't be hired, or they should. I'm just telling you, there's a procedure you're missing here, and you should be aware.
Madam President, we put these people through the council, and, through the academy. And what are we gonna do now? Just tell them to go home?
Mr. LeBeau?
Well, come on.
It's
Doesn't
now
make
my
any-
turn,
I-
okay?
but I'm that's just for the record. It just doesn't make any sense.
Please.
Okay, can I just say one thing too, and I'm sorry to
Yep.
interject in, but Nancy's correct under section 902A of the charter. Mentions that officers, the amount of the officers that you have, it's determined by the town administrator, and it's upon recommendation by the chief of police and approval of the town council. It's a 3-step process. The chief's made his recommendation. Unfortunately, you never had step 1. That didn't come before the council with that recommendation. Why that happened, I don't know. I do know the chief's recommendation. Step 2 has been done. Step 3 at some point has to be done too. These recruits that you're talking about will not be hired until there is a council action on that. I agree that the matter should be tabled so that it can be discussed, and it's unfortunate the way that it came to you. I'm not blaming the chief, by the way. He did what he was supposed to do, but it never did come to you in step one. So you're missing step one, and you're missing step three under the charter. And for the contracts that you will have with these recruits, in order for them to be legally viable, this process has to be gone through. So you do need a step one, and you do need the step three. Step two has been taken care of, but you do need to have that in order for this to take place. And it's unfortunate the way that it happened, I understand that, and I think you've been put in a bad position on it, but that's the three-step process. Nancy's correct, there is a process, and without that process being adhered to, there may be legal challenges later on to their employment, which is the last thing you want to have happen.
Madam President, that was going to be my question to Tony, was there a charter violation that occurred here? And if so, would we be able to go after the person who created it to get the funds back?
You may well, but as the town's lawyer, that's something that happened in the past, and that's a statement you need to take a look at. I'm more concerned about the future.
Right.
Because if you don't have this process, later on, if there's a challenge to the employment, which is a very real possibility, that may impair the town's ability to go through with the employment for these officers. That's what I'd like to make sure. If they're going to be hired, I would like the process to be put through so that there's no questions as to whether or not they can be hired. That'd be bad, I think, very bad for the town. That's where I'm coming from.
May I ask a question?
There's a motion to table. Actually, I think you probably want to do that so that these legal issues can be worked out. Because even if you say tonight, we're going to go forward on this, because of those charter issues, I'm concerned about that. And I do think that from a legal standpoint, you need to know what you're doing before you make the decision. It might be your policy decision, and it is a policy decision, as to what the size of the police department should be for the collective bargaining unit. But before you get to that stage, you need to have I think, some confidence in that whatever you do legally is correct and will be able to withstand any legal challenges afterwards.
I move the motion.
I already made a motion.
No, we're going to,
Yeah,
we
seconded
want to
it.
vote on
Yes.
it. We want to vote on it.
Wait
Move it.
a minute. What was the motion? Can you repeat your motion?
My motion is to table the hiring of the 5 officers until we can further review the 12 weeks, until they're done with their field training and Tony can.
I wouldn't even wait the 12 weeks.
Yeah, but they can't go further.
So may I ask, I want to ask a question about
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
When these young people graduate on Friday?
Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. When they graduate on Friday afternoon, if we've not made a decision, then what would happen with them?
They would be in limbo, because field training would start the next Monday.
I was under the impression they just went to field training.
Would they continue, because they're employees right now?
Correct, based
So
on
would they
this.
continue to be employees after Friday if we don't? Because they're technically employees right now.
Are they employees though, Tony, because of what you just said?
Well, they're getting paid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're
So-
on they're on the employee list.
But of course, there's a question to
of
even that.
Right.
So I don't say don't defer it for the 12 weeks. I think it's only gonna take a couple of weeks, probably the next meeting, to sort through the legal issues on this. That's how I defer it out.
So may I also ask a question? Given what the current salary numbers are for this year, where in the budget is the salary money coming from that's been compensating these young men and young women?
It's been coming from my regular budget throughout this 6-month period. And
But
then,
out of your salary account?
yes,
But it's gonna be short.
there is a loss, but they've also, I don't want to say pillaged. They took they took $57,000 this week, Monday from me. They took $14,000 previously.
For what?
Just trash
Not from salaries though.
from different accounts. So those monies, this would have been transferred over or moved over. There are monies coming in There are
We
monies,
took, wait a minute, we took $57,000 out of the police budget for trash?
We took money out of the landfill and public works. But you're talking about this past,
I just
are you
said,
talking
I
about,
just,
are you talking about in the past few months?
Monday I started with Nancy and Denise, and we went over my budget, the police budget, and took, but that was the figure we got that
Madam
day.
Treasurer, could you help us here?
Have a seat.
That
Okay.
was to cover the salaries.
Right.
We took
Well,
money
we
from all
have
different
about
accounts to
53
cover.
73,000 or something to move from his interdepartmental accounts.
To his salary.
To the
To
salary
salary
account
accounts
to
to
cover
cover.
this.
So it wasn't for
Yes, ma'am.
anything else.
So, let me ask you a question then. Is that to date? Is that,
Okay.
is that to date? That's to cover this to date?
No. Anticipating.
And that's till the end of the
12 weeks?
fiscal year?
June, no, the end of June.
The end of June. Okay, so, that's till the.
That's
till
why I
the-
said we had 2
till the
fiscal
end of
years
June.
working on it.
So, I would agree with Tony that we would table this, but I would really like to understand the hard numbers of this before we get to the next discussion. I don't think that if what you're telling me is that you and Nancy were going through accounts to try and come up with enough salary, and thank goodness we've paid these nice young people, that's good. If we're gonna table this, I would like to really, from a forensic accounting point of view, understand what exactly we're considering and looking at here, so that we can make a decision that we're really informed about what the costs of this
I
are,
would
and whether or not
agree.
we can actually, what we can afford and what we can't afford in next year's
I
budget.
would like to clear up the facts. When I stated there's 2 fiscal years, that's exactly what I meant. We had this money, well, we're going to another
Okay,
fiscal year.
right.
This fiscal year is where we've got these funds from. I wasn't pointedly, that's how I was trying to say this figure we're coming up with.
Yeah, because the one thing I will say, and, you know, I do agree with John, none of us are police chiefs, although I'm a cop's daughter and a cop's sister, so I'm generally very police friendly.
My father's a builder, and I'm not qualified at all to build buildings.
It was a joke.
Just saying, that's all.
It was a joke, John, I was kidding. You know, the one thing that I wish, to me, the second mistake, if the first mistake in all of this is that council approval was never given for this, the second mistake was at some point along the way, in the budget process, way back when, this, you know, if this was a need, this salary line should have been increased more than, you know, the raises. And here we are, after the budget fact, trying to figure out where to get salaries.
Without,
And if these folks were in the academy at that time,
they were.
yes.
Now, let me, according to the conversations I had with the previous administrator, the figures, and he had discussed it with, I believe you, help me if I'm wrong, or he said that the accounts he had looked at and reviewed, that we were covered. That was the conversation I had, and I don't like saying that when the person is not here to defend themselves. But this is what I based it on, and I apologize for that. He said that there was a small shortfall, and we were covered. So that's why I was confident to go forward. This wasn't taken lightly. This was a serious look at our needs and the financial responsibility. That's where I got this from, and that's why I moved forward, in anticipation of what was going to happen with the department. I'm still confident in what I gave to the former administrator.
Okay, so.
Tony.
Maybe we
So-
can work on that.
So, let me just
Recap?
recap a little here. Okay, so we know that there's budgetary concerns. We knew this when they first went to the academy, we let them, so they signed a contract November 2nd. They started the academy in January, so we've known this issue has been there at least since January, through the budgetary process. and we have budgetary concerns, granted. We have contracts with these 5 young folks. We made a commitment to them to send them to the academy, and my expectation was part of that training would be the 12-week field training. Now, I could be wrong, and I could be misinterpreting that, but in order for them to be, to move forward in their career, they would have to go through this field training. So, and part of that would be in this fiscal year, 5 weeks, and 7 weeks in the next fiscal year. So, we made a commitment, whether we wanted to or not, whether we knew or not. Procedures failed. It's past history. We are now in the situation where we have these young folks, and we need to know what to do with them come Monday morning. I think that's a critical step that we have to move forward with that. Now, secondary to that is, okay, they complete their field training, and then we need to decide what happens. Certainly there are, according to the chief, there are a couple of openings. There may be a few that we would not be able to hire after that field training, but at least when they've completed their field training, it gives them the opportunity to go to another department and get a job. So they would not be on unemployment, because we would be responsible for unemployment while they are seeking a job. So, and that's my understanding.
That's
Is that
correct. That's correct.
So if we don't complete this commitment to them for the field training, then we could just basically start paying unemployment now. And I don't think we want to do that. I think we made the commitment, and we should stick with that commitment and complete it. Then, at the point in time we get to the next fiscal year, we need to understand the staffing levels. We have a new town administrator. He can work with the police chief and go through the staffing levels and unwind all this. Come July 1st, we all know that July 1st is the new contract. If there are going to be retirements, they're going to be soon thereafter, because they'll try and get their annual fees and then retire. So maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, but at least it's another step in the process. We may have to go back to the first step, and we'll have a new town administrator to go back to that first step. But I think at this point, we still have, we have a commitment to these 5 young folks, and I can't see not living up to that commitment, to at least get them ready for a job, whether we hire them or not.
Tony, can I ask you a quick question? Can these guys, starting Friday when they graduate, do we own them, or can they go find a job?
Well, actually, that's what I wanted to say. One of the things I'd like to do is actually take a look at the contracts that was signed. That was something I never reviewed. I'd just like to take a look. I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with your comment about unemployment, because I do think there would be an obligation there. But to answer that question and to answer a question in my own mind about that, I would like to take a look at the contracts that were signed.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Perry?
my issue would be, the solicitor gave us his opinion before about the agreement, that he felt that we should probably continue this maybe till the next council meeting, so he can have time to review it, look it over, and then we can go from there, rather than commit to something that may come back to bite us later on, because it was past practice. I think we should go along with the recommendation of the solicitor.
We might not
And
have
I'll
that
amend,
option, Joe.
I would make an amendment to the motion to continue this till the next council meeting, so that we can get an interpretation from.
We might not have
Tony.
that option. They might be able to leave. He's checking the contract right now. These guys
That's
might
what
be able
I'm
to
not-
go somewhere else. Go to East Providence and start working there.
No, but
We
that's
train
what
them.
I'm-
They can go anywhere they
Can
want.
we I just want to find out
One at
if,
a time.
yeah.
And it's not, don't talk to each other, please.
I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to them. Tell them to go to East Providence.
Please.
Randy, don't do that. No,
You know
I
what?
just
Why do
want,
they want to? Why would anybody want to stay here now?
Randy, can I?
Here we go. Typical Tiverton.
No, can I ask, I'd like to get clarification from Tony? Because, oh, wait.
Conditional order, Mr. DeSisto.
What?
I just have a quick question.
I'll answer it.
He's not close enough. I need him closer.
The definition of the probationary period, the
2 years.
probationary period,
Probationary period is not counting, I'm sorry, big correction. It's not counting the police academy 1 year.
it says the candidate will receive a final offer of employment subject to a probationary period if and only if each and every term and condition has been completed successfully and all contingency are satisfied. There's nothing in here about field training. Is the assumption that there's other contingencies, which I will not get into, but does that include the final offer won't be made until after field training?
May I?
Yes.
The
I'm asking.
contingent, it's based on the probationary period because they have no union protection and can be laid off at any time during that probationary period without a grievance procedure being available to them. So that's why it includes that probationary period, sir.
Okay, so there's no commitment for the town for the field training continues, except for the fact that they are gonna be paid for that.
Correct, and if they don't successfully complete field training, they cannot complete probation.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. If suppose can somebody hire them now and provide the field training? That's, not that I want to do this, I'm just asking.
Can they? Yes.
Like they would be
They-
eligible for another department.
Friday afternoon, Friday morning, they were certified by the state of Rhode Island as police officers, which we paid for.
Okay, that was great.
So I have clarification also for Tony. You had suggested that we table it.
Yes.
So if we table it, how is that going to affect these guys? You were suggesting, because it sounded like what you were suggesting was different from what Joan was suggesting.
No.
Is that right?
No.
Okay, so,
What Joan is saying is that if the field training doesn't continue on, we're
Mhm.
gonna be, which I agree with, we're gonna be obligated for unemployment insurance.
yes, right.
So I think it's okay with the original motion to go on and allow them to complete the field training.
Mhm.
That's a risk to the town. I understand, but there's not a commitment to the town to hire them afterwards. So, I'm gonna be ready in 2 weeks. I'll be ready for the next council meeting. If you wanna table it out farther than that, you can do that too.
But we table what? That's what I mean. If we table it, they can't go to the field training.
They're not gonna be, in order to be officers, the town council has to approve that for the number. That's in the charter.
Okay.
So.
Madam President.
So,
So, finish, Tony.
did you finish?
Corrected by the next one. So Denise and I could sit with the chief, we can go over some of these next year numbers. Tony will come up with a solution as to how you get one and three done, and you could find this resolves itself by the next meeting.
Yeah, one of the two of the contingencies are, in this contract is, A, is sufficient funding, and B, is necessary budget allocations. So those are two things that I think need to be taken a look at. And I think it'll give an opportunity to see what happens, whether or not these contingencies take place. But in the end, to me, these officers will not have a true employment with the town until it's approved by the town council. And that's by charter.
Right.
So can I
by
make?
by deferring this, they'll continue on with their training in the field,
Okay,
okay?
yes.
However, it's going to be subject to a final vote by the town council as to the size of the department.
Right, but we're not stopping them from.
That's correct.
That's what I'm
So we're not
interested in,
gonna
so
s- we're
they're
not
gonna
gonna s-
continue.
We're not gonna stop them from beginning the field training on Monday.
That's correct,
Right.
yes.
Right.
But we're also not committing to the 12 weeks of field training either.
No, they're going to stop
That's-
the 12
They're gonna
weeks.
start on Monday,
And-
but we're not committing to 12 weeks. I mean, that's 4 months.
We should have a determination
And
before then.
By the
By
next,
Monday?
Not by Monday, no.
I wanted
So-
to, that's why I wanted to make an amendment to the motion for the next council meeting for Tony to render a decision on where we go. So at least for 2 weeks, they'll be doing their training,
Yes.
and then we'll go from there. We can vote on it at the next meeting, whether we hire them?
Exactly. That's
Okay,
what I
so
was
that's-
saying. They'll be-
Nancy and Denise have to be involved too.
Right,
They'll
Yeah.
begin their field training.
Yes.
right.
But by tabling this, there is a possibility at 2 weeks, some or all of them may continue their field training, only some, that's what I'm saying. We're
Keeping
not
your
making-
options open.
We're not making a commitment for field training for everybody for 12 weeks.
Correct.
Until we're sure we have the
But
finances.
I gotta tell you something, if the decision is some of them don't continue on, they're gonna be eligible for unemployment.
Right,
Understood.
right.
Okay?
Tony,
So you know.
can you answer my
You
original
do that right away.
question? You let everybody talk. Can I have 1 minute?
You have been talking,
No,
so.
yeah, over everybody else, all friggin' night.
No.
Yes, not no, yes.
No.
You know what I mean? Come on, give me a break. Once in a while. Somebody
Mr.
not talk
LeBeau,
over me.
Mr. LeBeau,
No, I'm all
please
set.
lower
okay?
your voice.
No, I'm not
If you
lowering my
have a
voice. I'm
question-
all set. Talked over all friggin' night.
If you have a question,
No, I'm all
please
set with the
answer.
questions. No, I'm not calming down. I'm tired of this. Every time I try to say something, somebody jumps in and just keeps rattling on,
LeBeau,
and I've had
Mr.
enough
LeBeau,
of it. Yeah, okay.
you're out of
Yeah.
order.
Yeah, okay, I'm out of order.
Okay, so,
So the
That was-
motion on the table is,
no, I amended the motion that Mr. Edwards,
Come back to the next, you.
so,
No, Counselor LeBeau is the one who made the original motion. It's-
Counselor
No,
LeBeau
I
made
seconded
the
it.
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was this motion?
so Mr. LeBeau has retracted his
So-
motion.
so I'll make a
do I
motion.
have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we table this till the next council meeting, and we can get a decision from the town solicitor. That's where we go from here.
In the acting town administrator and
And
the
the-
town treasurer too.
And the acting town administrator and town treasurer also.
They didn't get the administrator to come in.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Mr. LeBeau?
No, I'm not in favor.
Opposed?
Yep. Should
6
hire
in
them all right
favor,
now.
1 opposed.
Right, thank you all very much for your consideration, and I will be back to you. I will crunch numbers.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks, Chief.
Next item, interim town administrator.
Now, this is gonna be fun now.
4A, approval, ratification
No,
of
it's my
town administrator contract,
Now it's my
3-year
turn.
contract, including impact statement.
Everybody, you know what? Every time I try to say something,